Midnight holds its breath. A lone bell breaks the dark, one iron note rising from nowhere, then falling like a stone into mist. No rope, no ringer. The sound crawls across empty fields, slides under doors, rattles bedroom glass. Dogs hush. Clocks stall. Inside St. Dymphna's convent, candles drown in their own wax. Pews sit cold, dusted with moonlight, waiting for prayers that will never come. 8 sisters should be chanting psalms, feet shuffling on stone, voices weaving hope. Instead, their habits hang on hooks like skins left behind. Snow covers every path, flawless, unbroken, yet the chapel doors gape wide as a scream. The bell swings again, another hollow cry, shaking dust from beams men sworn shut last spring. Who woke the metal throat? What force dares toll a sealed tower and steal 8 devoted hearts in silence? Listen. The note fades, but dread remains, filling the lungs of a town too afraid to breathe. Step closer, and I will show you what waits in the crypt below, counting candles, whispering names. What do you think ripped the sisters from their beds tonight, and who will dare silence the bell before dawn? Subscribe, and help us drag the truth into light. September 1921. Fog heaves over the Northumberland coast, thick as wet wool. A lone carriage rattles along gravel that glitters like broken glass. The horse exhales steam, hooves tick like metronomes for the dead. The driver keeps his eyes forward and his tongue pinned behind his teeth. Ahead, Ravenshead Abbey rises from the cliffs, its windows deeper than the sky. Waves batter the rocks below, a low drum you feel before you hear. The carriage halts before an iron gate crowned with rust and salt. The door opens with a sigh. 8 figures descend, habits black as unlit coal, veils drowning every face. Their order is precise, no gap wider than a breath, no motion wasted. They bring no lug, age. Only rosaries dangle from pale fingers, filigree crucifixes drinking moonlight, shedding cold sparks. They speak no word. The fog accepts them, wraps their ankles, swallows their tracks. In the driver's mind, one sentence clings like frost. They came without a word, and the fog swallowed their tracks. Sister 1 reaches the gate. She presses her rosary to the lock. Metal clicks open, not with force, but with recognition, like a dog greeting its master. Hinges groan, iron parts, the sisters glide inside. The courtyard is a drowned garden. Weeds bow under dew, statues crumble, yet candles burn in windows where no caretaker remains. Someone has prepared an unseen welcome. Within the nave, dust drifts like slow snow through ruined moonlight. Pews lie overturned, hymnals bloated with mold. The sisters process down the aisle, their rosaries ticking like clocks about to stop. At the altar they pause. Veils lift the width of a sigh, enough to inhale the scent of forgotten incense. A single book rests upon the altar, a tome bound in cracked leather, clasp already unlatched. Ink bleeds fresh words into the margin. Welcome, sisters. The youngest gasps, but the message vanishes before fear can form a sound. Outside, the driver feels the gate latch behind invisible hands. He wills the horse to move, yet reins twitch on their own, turning the carriage back the way it came. Mist follows him like a promise, erasing hoof prints before dawn can inspect. A bell tolls deep in the abbey, though the tower bell was lowered after the war to melt into hospital instruments. Stone walls shiver, candle flames stretch, shadows bow. Mother Verena, eldest among them, withdraws a small vial sealed with red wax. Liquid night sloshes within. She drinks, then passes the vial left. Each sister sips, lashes fluttering, veins lighting momentarily blue. The ritual ends when the vial comes full circle. still half filled, as if the drink replenishes itself. They turn toward a door hidden behind rotting choir stalls. It opens before they touch it, revealing stairs spiraling down like a question asked too many times. The sisters descend. Air grows warmer, scented with salt and violets. Coffins sleep in alcoves, names chiseled away by something more deliberate than time. In the crypt center waits a stone slab ringed by 8 candles set in hollowed skulls. 7 halos of twisted silver rest atop the skulls. One space lies empty. Mother Verena lays her ornate rosary where the missing crown should be. Silver beads rattle, settle, shine. The stone beneath pulses once, like a giant heartbeat. Dark water seeps through floor cracks, circling the slab, rising to ankles, then stopping as though commanded. The slab lifts a finger's breadth. A hand pale as moon milk emerges, fingers searching, trembling. They find the new halo. The hand retreats, stone lowers, water drains, leaving salt lines like runes. The candles snuff themselves. The sisters ascend, garments unsoaked, eyes reflecting something new, hope or ruin, hard to tell. In the nave, pews have realigned, now facing the rear doors, awaiting arrivals not yet named. A line of melted wax spells 2 gleaming words across the altar cloth. He waits. The sisters file into the courtyard. Fog parts like curtains, then closes tight behind them. No carriage, no driver, only cliff edge and the hiss of black waves. They walk toward that sound without hesitation. Their footprints linger 3 heartbeats, then vanish. The sea receives no bodies, only echoes. Legend says Ravenshead was founded upon a pagan well, its water sweet one year and salt the next, depending on the moon's grief. Those who drank on a salt year dreamed of children singing beneath the waves and woke unable to speak the song aloud. Tonight is a salt year. The sisters know it in their bones. Their order tracks lunar, sorrow the way farmers watch rainfall. Each was summoned by a letter written in ink that vanished once read, leaving only the sender's seal, a raven pierced by a nail. They burned the letters, yet the words kept echoing until silence hurt more than fire. So they came, surrendering names, trading daylight for one promise: restore the bell or share its exile. No carriage of flesh can outrun that promise. No confession can untie it. 3 nights later, fishermen haul empty nets beneath the abbey cliffs and swear the tide hums a glassy hymn. They pull ropes, find not fish, but 7 silver halos tangled among seaweed, each glowing soft as dawn. The 8th halo never returns, and neither do the sisters. By dawn, Ravenshead Abbey stands silent again, yet every window glows with lamplight. No one lit. Villagers smell incense drifting inland, mixed with salt and something burnt. They do not cross the gate, not after what happened in 1911, not after the war took their sons and left the abbey to ghosts. But they listen, and sometimes they hear 8 voices humming a hymn no priest ever taught. What power followed the sisters into the sea, and why does the abbey's bell still toll in dreams across the bay? Subscribe and keep vigil with us until the next shadow arrives. Silence never truly lives inside stone. It only sleeps, waiting for the pulse of another heart to wake it. Tonight, Ravenshead Abbey becomes a body again, veins glowing with candlelight, breath rising as damp mist that collects beneath high arches. The sisters disperse after Complina. Their sandals hush across cracked flagstones, soft as moth wings. They pass cells stripped of comfort. No beds, no icons, only narrow slits where moonlight leaks like milk. Doorless thresholds breathe cold onto their ankles. In that chill, the abbey exhales the first whisper. It drifts through the cloister like a leaf drag, jed by slow water. No tongue moves, yet the sound persists, syllables too blurred to name, too urgent to ignore. Mother Verena pauses beneath a Gothic arch. Her taper flickers, haloing damp mortar. She tilts her head, listens. The whisper splits, becomes 2, 3, a drifting choir of unsourced breaths. One voice carries a lilt, almost laughing. Another rasps like parchment torn across a nail. The eldest sister presses her candle nearer the wall. Mortar beads with moisture and, just for a blink, pulses as if a heart beats inside the stone. She steps back. The pulse fades. Only quiet stones remain. Down the eastern corridor, Sister Cecily kneels to relight a candle snuffed by unseen air. As her match flares, she spies motion in her periphery. A veil, maybe, rounding the far corner. She calls out, but her voice feels swallowed before leaving her lips. She rises, flame cupped in palm, and follows. The corridor bends left, then right, yet every corner shows the same retreating flicker. A candle ahead that dies whenever she nears, as though luring her deeper with extinction. 3 cells past the infirmary, Cecily enters a broad alcove. Above, stained glass saints bleed fractured colors across the floor, but the silhouettes they cast no longer match their bodies. St. Gabriel's trumpet droops like melted wax. St. Lucy's eyes, once reverent in the platter she bears, lie scattered as glinting shards on the sill. A new shape appears in the glass, a door, half open, where no door exists in the wall behind it. Wind sighs through the colored seam, carrying the hush of distant waves and something else. Breathing, slow and wet. Meanwhile, Sister Magdalene patrols the library, hands tucked into sleeves. Shelves stand like headstones, most volumes gutted by mildew. Yet an unseen reader flips through pages somewhere beyond the lantern's reach. Paper crackles, stops, crackles again. Magdalene's lamp reveals dust motes drifting in lazy spirals, but no hands turn the pages, no body creates the secluded. Haddo hunkered between shelves. She whispers a psalm into the dark. The pages cease mid-turn, as if the unseen reader listens. Then one ancient book snaps shut with such force its spine splits, ejecting a tuft of powder that smells of funerals. Magdalene retreats, knees trembling. In the refectory, Sister Clare sets out 8 wooden bowls, though hunger gnaws no stomach tonight. She aligns them with ritual precision. As the last bowl settles, a chill passes along the table. Breadcrumbs skate across wood against the drift of air, circling to form a crude symbol, a crescent pierced by a single line. Claire gasps. The crumbs scatter. From the rafters, a drop of wax falls into her bowl and hisses like meat on fire. Corridors meet at the cloister garth, where a withered fig tree claws at tired stars. Sister Ruth stands beneath it, face turned upward. She feels watched, but not by heaven. Candle flames ring the courtyard. Tiny sentries. One by one they bow and die, snuffed by lips she cannot see. Each extinction advances closer. Darkness stitches itself toward her in careful increments. When the final candle gutters at her feet, the tree above creaks, bending though no wind stirs. Branch tips graze her veil, leaving streaks of black sap that smell of rusted iron. Mother Verena reconvenes the sisters outside the chapter house. 5 arrive, 2 are missing, Cecily and Magdalene. Shadows ripple across cloister walls, elongating like arms searching for purchase. The remaining sisters raise their tapers high. Their collective light reveals Latin scripture carved into pillars now crawling with damp moss, shaped like letters that should not exist. The moss words glow faintly, rearranging themselves into a single command. Listen. And they do. From the north ambulatory comes Cecily, walking stiffly, candle unlit. Her rosary beads click too fast, rattling like teeth in frost. Verena asks where she has been. Cecily's answer is not her own voice. A guttural tone replies through her throat, speaking some half-remembered French. The door is open, the book is hungry. Then her pupils bloom to fill her eyes, and she collapses. The moss words fade to black. Magdalene returns next, guided by clangs. the metal return grates slamming behind her each time she veers off course. She wipes grime from palms that smell of ink. Under her nails, slivers of paper, fresh and wet as living tissue. She tries to speak, but coughs torn book pages instead, each stamped with red wax identical to the vial used in the arrival ritual. The pages hang in the air, fluttering, forming a ring around her head like grotesque seraph wings before drifting gently to the floor. Verena gathers her flock into the scriptorium, heavy doors sealed with an iron bar. Candles ring the sisters. Their combined glow banishes corner shadows, for now. Verena anoints Cecily's lips with holy oil. Cecily trembles, then stills. Her eyes refocus, human again, but tears streak down as though the borrowed voice scorched her throat. She whispers of the stained glass door that opens onto an impossible wind. She swears that behind the glass she heard eternal chanting, voices of children counting backwards from 8 in a tongue unborn. Magdalene sinks to her knees, clutching her chest where pages burst forth. She mutters of shelves rearranging themselves into labyrinth walls, of a hand made entirely of quills guiding her deeper, of a single candle that burned underwater, illuminating ink that moved like serpents across parchment. The candle told her, yes, told her, that the abbey once stored souls the way kingdoms hoarded gold, and that someone has come to audit the vault. As she speaks, one of her expelled pages curls, words bleeding into new sentences. The text crawls. Not thieves, not guests, debtors come to settle. Flames edge the parchment, devouring it before anyone can snatch it away. The air fills with scent of myrrh and seaside rot. Ruth studies the iron bar locking the door. It vibrates lightly, as if struck from the far side by unseen fists. With each tremor the candles shorten, wax racing toward final breath. The air thickens, whispers resume, nearer now, threading through every syllable of the sisters' prayers. Voices rise in a layered chant, some male, some child, some quivering like flute notes. No word is distinct, yet the cadence suggests a litany of welcome. Verena issues orders. They will keep vigil until sunrise. They will speak no idle word. They will let no whisper pass their tongues, for emptiness is a doorway, and words are keys. The sisters kneel, forming a circle. Tapers point outward like spears. They begin the susaip. On, "Receive me, O Lord." The first candle dies. On, "According to thy word." The second follows. After each line, another flame snuffs itself, as if heaven accepts their offering by removing light. When the 8th candle fades, darkness swallows the room. A hush descends, deeper, heavier than any silence humans craft. It is the quiet of sealed tombs, of ocean trenches, of unborn thoughts. In that void a new sound blooms, children giggling behind the walls, tiny palms slapping stone in playful rhythm. The giggles turn to humming, the tune circular, maddening, as if stuck on one eternal refrain. Sudden lantern-blue radiance flares above the sisters, cast not by fire but by words suspended in mid-air. Glowing script forms an arch over their heads, letters dripping light like molten glass. Verena reads, voice steady. "The cloister remembers every prayer you buried in haste. Dig, and you shall eat the fruit." The arch collapses into sparks that sizzle on their veils, leaving no burn marks. The iron bar lifts itself, grinds across stone, falls with a clang loud as cannon fire. Doors swing inward. Beyond lies the corridor, torches blazing on both walls, though no hand lit them. Shadows are gone, replaced by silhouettes etched into stone, as if the darkness itself fled and left its stain. Each silhouette faces away, backs hunched, hands covering ears. Step by step, the sisters exit the scriptorium. Their tapers relight of their own accord. They proceed down the nave. Choir stalls are no longer empty. Figures kneel in every seat, robed in moss-green habits that drip seawater. Heads bowed, they do not breathe. Mother Verena's candle reveals faces, none human. Carved wood, cracked porcelain, waxen dummies borrowed from forgotten creches. But when the flame glides past, eyelids of painted glass flutter once. A sudden gust dashes all candles but Verena's. In that narrow cone of light, the moss silhouettes peel off the pillars and march ahead, melting into floor tiles. The sisters follow them instinctively. Each step echoes twice, as though someone parallels their path on the ceiling above. The procession halts at a wooden grate once leading to the crypt stairs. The grate is ajar. Warmth rises from below, along with a smell equal parts sea brine and library dust. Cecily inhales, hears faint counting again, this time from 7 downward. Each number strikes the lanterns dead until only Verena's flame remains. They descend. Stairs spiral, slick with condensation. With every turn the air brightens, though no torch burns. Phosphorescent words crawl across walls, illuminating glyphs older than Latin. The sisters dare not read them. The stairwell ends in a circular chamber knee-deep in black water. In its center floats a stone plinth, perfectly dry, bearing a single object, an unlit candle inside a cage of ever-turning gears. The gears rotate without fuel, grinding out. Soft music, reminiscent of nursery lullabies. Yet beneath the lullaby throbs a second rhythm, distant surf colliding with rock, or perhaps a massive heart suspended beneath the abbey. Magdalene wades first. Water clutches her robes but never rises above the hem. She reaches the plinth. The cage opens like petals. She lifts the candle. Its wick ignites, though her fingers wield no fire. The flame is colorless, a hole bitten through reality. It swoons left, right, then stands tall. Instantly the whispers stop. Stone silhouettes vanish from the sisters' memories, as though erased mid-dream. The counting children fall silent. Candles across the abbey reignite, corridor by corridor, flooding Ravenshead with trembling light. Magdalene holds the colorless flame carefully. Within its translucence spins an image. 8 habits walking a shoreline at dawn. Their tracks vanish behind them, replaced by blooming violets that open only to salt air. Verena recognizes the shore west of the abbey. She utters a single command. At dawn, we follow. Water drains from the chamber through unseen channels. The stairs' glyphs dim. Silence returns, but it no longer feels predatory, merely patient. They ascend. Somewhere above, a bell that melted decades ago rings twice, each peal clear as silver hitting crystal. Morning will find no porcelain choir in the nave, no moss silhouettes on stone, but a violet will sprout between every floor tile, petals moist with brine. What hymn do you believe the abbey itself longs to sing? And who will dare finish the verse? Subscribe and keep watch with us for the next echo in the dark. The infirmary sleeps at the far end of the north wing, sealed off by a door of worm-eaten oak. Only moonlight lives here, slipping through mullioned panes to silver empty cots. Shelves sag with yellowed bandages, jars of quinine, bottles whose labels have bled unreadable. The air smells of stale camphor and sea damp, as if fever ghosts still sweat in these sheets. Nothing stirs, except a mirror. It stands taller than any sister, propped against a wall where plaster has buckled. Its glass is mottled with age, ribs of cracks branching outward like winter lightning frozen in flight. Someone, long ago, braided rosemary around its frame, a dead garland now brittle as ash. The mirror should show rows of blankets, tin basins, and the low flicker of a single candle. It shows none of these things. It shows nothing at all. When Sister Agnes enters to fetch fresh dressings, her taper pushes shadows across the floor. She glances at the mirror, expecting her own pale face. She sees only the room behind her. Cots, cabinets, the open door, minus herself, as if her body were edited from reality. She lifts the candle higher. The flame hovers in midair inside the glass, untethered to any hand. A chill crawls her spine, prickling skin beneath the habit. She forces a smile, whispers, "Old silver can be tricky." Yet the air gives no comfort. Agnes approaches, Boards groan underfoot. The glass remains calm, reflecting empty wood. She touches the surface. Cold bites deeper than mere night. At her fingertip, a crack widens with a soft sigh, crawling outward like a vine seeking light. From the new fracture bleeds a shadow, thin at first, then swelling into the shape of a hooded figure. The figure's head tilts, its veil slips back, revealing a face not her own. Sunken cheeks, lips split, eyes wide with grief. The habit hanging from those bones is tattered, drenched, the color of old bruises. She jerks her hand away. Behind her, the room is still empty. Before her, the broken ghost breathes fog upon the inside of the glass. Its collected breath writes 4 words across the silver. Why did you leave? Agnes stumbles, knocks a jar of laudanum that shatters, perfuming the room with sweet rot. She flees into the corridor, heart tripping against ribs, candle sputtering. Mother Verena here. It's the crash. She finds Agnes shaking beside the infirmary door. No words come, only a trembling gesture. Verena steps inside. The mirror greets her with blankness, void of nun or memory. Only cracks twitch softly, as if cooling metal. She draws 3 deep breaths, smelling alcohol and lavender dust. She speaks one line of Psalm 27. The mirror answer is silence thick enough to chew. Verena summons Sister Ruth and Sister Claire. Together they carry the mirror into the chapel, set it before the altar beneath watchful stained glass. 8 candles encircle its base, flames dance, reflected, yet every wick appears doubled. 16 flames bob in the silver, though only 8 burn behind them. The sisters kneel. They begin the litany of the saints. Each name spoken dims one reflected candle, while the real candle burns steady. By the final Amen, every phantom flame is gone. Claire exhales relief. A low creak splits the quiet. Across the mirror's fissures, new hairline cracks sprout, sketching veiled silhouettes, 8 in number, each bowing low. Candles gutter and stabilize, their reflections not returning. The bowed silhouettes raise ghostly heads, their mouths stretch open wider than bone should allow. No sound emerges, yet the chapel quivers, pews rattling. Dust sifts from vault stone like grey snow. Verena orders every sister back except Magdalene, the strongest. Together they flip the mirror, pressing cracked glass face first onto the flagstones. Splinters snap. The sisters breathe easier, but only for seconds. On the back of the mirror, what should be rough plank now bears a new surface. Perfect, polished, unmarred. It reflects the chapel upside down, candles hanging like fiery stalactites. And in that reflection, Magdalene sees herself standing alone, though Verena is beside her. Worse, 7 veiled figures crowd the altar rail behind the reversed Magdalene, their face hidden but their hands outstretched. Real Magdalene whirls, altar empty, pews bare. She returns eyes to the false reflection. One figure steps closer in the glass, reaching until fingertips press against the boundary. Silver ripples. A nail pierces through, long and black, tapping stone with a metallic tick. Another nail follows, then a hand, colorless skin dripping seawater. Verena shouts a warning. They hoist the mirror upright once more. Nails scrape stone, retreat. The glass coughs a gasp of brine. Verena commands a rope fetched from the belfry. They lash the mirror to a wheelbarrow, trundle it into the courtyard where the fig tree sheds salt-crusted leaves. Under a sky bruised by approaching dawn, they tilt the mirror over the well. Old rope creaks as they lower it, silver swallowing starshine. When the frame meets black water, the surface hisses, boiling though the night is cold. Steam wreathes the sisters, smelling of rust, violets, and forgotten confessions. Cracks knit themselves closed before their eyes. The mirror sheds its fractures like a serpent abandons dead skin. Glass clears, smooth and flawless. But now, deep within the reflection, stone stairs spiral downward where the well walls should be. Torches flicker along those phantom stairs, leading to a vaulted door that breathes light. Verena feels tugged forward by unseen gravity. She grips rope with white knuckles, knees buckling. From below, a single chime drifts upward. One note from a bell long silenced. The water inside the well glows, painting every sister's face bone-land pale. Agnes, recovering, sees the gaunt visage of the earlier ghost beckoning from the spiral. Its hand clutches a cracked rosary identical to her own. She whispers, "She was one of us." The ghost nods, sorrow folding her features. Around her ankles swirl others, tiny shapes, perhaps children, watching with moon-wide eyes. Claire's voice breaks the spell. "Release it." One, they shove the frame. Water closes over silver. Light dims, stairs vanish. Calm returns, save for ripples sighing against bricks. At sunrise, they haul the mirror back. It weighs far less, almost feather-light, like hollow tin. The glass is now dull, reflective as fogged steel. No image stirs. They lean it face to wall in the cloister and nail boards across, sealing it fast. Yet, whenever a sister passes, boards thrum, mirror humming beneath, chanting some underwater lullaby. Mother Verena inspects Agnes's cracked rosary. Between every fifth bead, hairline fissures mirror those that haunted the glass. She pockets the beads, uneasy. That night, the abbey's internal well overflows, though no rain falls. Water seeps beneath cell doors, carrying scraps of lily petals. On each scrap, ink scrawls 2 words: "See us." Candles relight unsummoned, shadows gather at corners, pointing always toward the boarded mirror. Verena cannot sleep. She roams corridors, repeating the psalm of deliverance. Outside the infirmary she hears weeping. Inside, cots remain empty, but bandages weave themselves into rough human shapes on mattresses, each shape rocking gently, sobbing through linen mouths. One shape sits before the vacant mirror stand. Its head turns, though it lacks eyes. Verena backs away until sobs fade behind the door. Elsewhere, Sister Ruth dreams. In the dream, she walks the spiral stairs, torches flaring at her presence. At the bottom stands the cracked mirror ghost holding a candle that burns black. The ghost places the candle in Ruth's hands, saying nothing, yet Ruth hears words inside bone. "We remember what you buried." She wakes, clutching a charred wick. Her pillow smells of tide pool rot. Morning bells refuse to ring. The rope hangs limp, fibers soaked as if from rain, though sky is clear. When Magdalene grips the rope, seawater gushes from it, pooling on stone, bringing violet seeds that germinate instantly, sprouting petals the color of bruised dawn. She releases the rope. Water stops. Petals wither in seconds, turning to dust that spells a crude arrow, pointing once more toward the cloister mirror. Verena gathers the order. They decide, to understand the haunting, they must breach the boards before night falls, on their terms, not the mirror's. They pray, fast, and prepare holy water brewed with sea salt and crushed violets. At Vespers, they will unseal the glass. Until then, the abbey watches with windows like lidless eyes. Walls pulse faintly when no one looks. The well keeps whispering numbers in reverse. 8, 7, 6. The sisters whisper back psalms, but their voices shake. What truth waits behind the glass, and will breaking it free them or bind them forever? Tell us your theory below and make sure to subscribe before the mirror cracks again. Darkness clings to the scriptorium like old cobwebs, dense enough to taste. In the center, a stone desk squats under a single beam of moonlight that leaks through cracked slate. Upon the desk waits a diary, leather flayed by years, corners chewed by damp, spine stitched with rust. A chain snakes around its cover 7 full times, each coil ending in a tarnished lock. 7 keys lie beside it, arrayed like the points of a compass, metal green with age, teeth filed into curious shapes. Someone once meant these keys never to be found together. Mother Verena stands first in the circle of sisters. Candlelight trembles along her jaw. She announces that the diary bears Sister Agnes's name burned into the back cover, letters black and cracked, as if seared by impatience rather than flame. Agnes disappeared 3 nights prior, leaving only a veil soaked with sea spray and a rosary cracked bead by bead. Now her forbidden words call to them, and the abbey itself seems to hold its breath. 7 keys, 8 sisters, 1 secret begging release. Verena lifts the first key, marked with a Roman numeral I carved shallow, almost shy. It slides into the uppermost lock. With a hesitant twist, the mechanism sighs like lungs that dreaded their next breath. The chain slackens 1 loop. Sister Ruth selects the second key. She whispers a line from the Rule of Benedict. Listen with the ear of your heart. Turn. Click. Dust skitters across the desk like fleeing ants. Somewhere far below, a dull thud answers, as though the floor itself just received a knock. Key 3 belongs to Claire. Her fingers tremble, but the metal obeys. This lock sticks, resists, then yields with a snap that echoes the way bones break in winter. Torchlight dims for an instant, then flares back twice as bright. On the wall, each sister's shadow doubles, forming silent twins with heads bowed. Magdalene takes key 4. Before she inserts it, she notices a thin red stain along the groove, dried blood or ink, hard to judge. She wipes it on her robe. The stain smears into a question mark. Key slides home. Turn. A child's giggle, faint, fluting, drifts from the west corridor, dies on the air. The 5th key rests in Sister Cecily's palm. She hesitates, hearing nothing yet sensing movement beneath flagstones. She turns. Stone groans. The chain loosens further, leather sighs open enough to reveal a ragged page edge, quivering like a trapped moth. Key 6 glints in candlelight, though grime should smother any shine. Sister Bridget, youngest, inserts it. Her knuckles whiten. Click. This time the abbey responds with a deeper noise, a rushing breath, as if corridors inhale all at once. Flames lean toward the diary, hungry, even. The final key bears no numeral, only a crudely etched crescent pierced by a straight line, the same symbol crumbs once sketched on the refectory table. Verena fits it into the heart lock. 1 slow turn. Silence thickens, then fractures. Every lock springs free. The chain uncoils, drops to the floor with a rattle like thrown dice deciding fate. Leather yawns apart. A draught of brackish wind bursts from between the pages, carrying brine, old lavender, and fear. Candles quiver, but none extinguish. The sisters brace themselves. Inside, Agnes's handwriting sprawls across brittle paper, ink veering from neat loops to frantic scratches. Each page trembles as if still alive, pulse beating behind words. Ruth reads aloud. Entry 1. I hear footsteps in the nave at midnight. Heavy boots, not sandals. They stop outside my cell, then fade below the floor. No sister owns such a stride. Cecily flips to the margin. A smear of ink sketches 3 figures carrying lanterns underground. Their heads hang backward, necks bent in impossible angles. Beside the drawing, Agnes notes, they don't see me, yet they pause as though counting rooms. Entry 2. Mother says walls remember prayers, but these stones now murmur questions. Tonight they asked my name in voices of children. I did not answer. A water stain blurs the next sentences, but one phrase survives. Beneath the floor, a hymn without tongues. Bridget shivers. Entry 3. Footsteps again, 7 sets, marching. One lighter offbeat. I think it limps. I follow past the infirmary, past the well, boards lift by unseen hands. Below, corridors twist like intestines. I smell violets rotting in salt. Magdalene turns the page. Here Agnes's pen gouged the parchment, letters scratched nearly through. Entry 4. They keep counting backward. 8, 7, 6. Each number dims the lamps. When they reach 1, a bell tolls, though the tower is empty. Ink blot obscures 2 lines. Entry 5. I saw myself in the cracked mirror, but I was drowning. Habit soaked, mouth open, screaming bubbles. My reflection. And pressed a finger to her lips, warning me to silence. I woke spitting seawater onto my pillow. Splotches of rust, blood, dot the margin. Entry 6. Locks placed upon my diary this night. 7 of them, forged from old nails, keys hidden under chapel stones. If you read this, you must know, we are not alone. The world above is the skin, reality's bone lies below. Cecily gulps air that feels thinner than moments ago. Entry 7. They offered me a candle that burns black. They said it will show truth, but first I must feed the mirror. I don't know what that means. I am afraid. Here the handwriting lists names. Verena, Ruth, Claire, Magdalene, Cecily, Bridget, Evelyn, Agnes. Beside each, a tally mark. Beside Agnes's name, 3 tallies. Beside Evelyn's, none. Evelyn vanished weeks earlier, presumed sent to Sister Abby for rest. Now doubt blooms. The sisters turn to the final page. Ink begins mid-sentence. If the footsteps reach 0, doors will open. We will walk downward till sea and sky trade places. Voices beneath the floor promise. The line ends in a violent blot. Ink bursts outward like dark water splashed against stone, still wet. A single droplet leaps, lands on Verena's hand, and seeps into her skin, leaving a crescent and line mark, identical to the 7th key. Candles roar. Shadows convulse, merging into a column that rises behind the sisters. In its surface, violet petals swirl like stars, trapped in tar. A chorus of child voices chants, 8, 7, 6, 5. Verena slams the diary shut. The chain on the floor leaps back onto the cover, coiling through the locks, each snapping closed of its own accord. Keys scatter off the desk, skittering into darkness as though fleeing their purpose. The chanting halts at 5. Silence returns, brittle as thin glass. The sisters back away. The desk groans. Beneath it, flagstones crack, forming a narrow seam that snakes toward the well corridor, a new door seeking hinge. They retreat to the cloister garth. Moonlight has fled. Clouds pregnant with storm roll overhead, though no wind blows. From windows, violet-colored light pulses in rhythm with distant surf. Somewhere underfoot, footsteps resume. Heavy boots, 7 pairs, and 1 limp. Magdalene clutches her rosary. Beads fracture, matching the tally pattern in the diary. She whispers, "If 0 comes, the door opens." Verena orders every sister to the chapel before the count can finish. As they hurry, the abbey responds. Bells tolling though ropes hang still. Candles igniting in stairwells, never armed with lamps. On the walls, fresh ink writes itself. "We remember what you buried." The words glow, then bleed downward like tears. Inside the chapel, they barricade doors with pews. Above the altar, stained glass flickers alive. Agnes's soaked reflection appears, hand pressed to the inside of the glass, eyes wide with pleading. Her lips form a single word. Below. Then she is yanked away into violet darkness, leaving cracks spidering across St. Gabriel's trumpet. The sisters kneel. They chant over thunder that never quite breaks. In pauses between verses, they hear counting drift up through stone. 4, 3. The voice is Agnes's now, tired, unstoppable. Each number cools the air, dims the candelabra. Verena opens her psalter to Psalm 130. Out of the depths, I cry. They recite. With every breath, candles claw back brightness, pushing numbers away. But the Psalter's margins blister, letters boiling to form Agnes's handwriting. You sealed truth with locks, but fear is the master key. Ink smears, rearranges. 2. Lightning cracks outside. Stained glass shivers. Water drips from nowhere, pooling at their knees, smelling of violets and rust. The counting stops at 1. Silence swells. All candles die at once. Nothing but heartbeats. A bell tolls deep beneath the floor. Stone quivers. Some door, old as then, lifts its latch. What secret do you believe waits beyond that underground door, and which key would you dare turn first? Subscribe so we can walk these halls together until the final tally falls. Dawn crawls up the cliffs like a weary pilgrim, pouring thin gold over Ravenshead Abbey. Its first light lands on the chapel, an arc of quarried dusk, silence trapped beneath slate. At the front stands an oak door twice the height of any man, veined with age, polished by centuries of prayers. No handle mars its face, no hinge reveals a pivot, yet the wood is carved to swing. Archangels arch overhead, wings unfurled, eyes cast down, swords lowered in uneasy mercy. The village blacksmith arrives first, sleeves rolled, crowbar gleaming with sunrise frost. He plants his weight, wedges iron into a seam that should not exist, and heaves. Oak flexes, then stiffens, as if swallowing the tool. Crowbar snaps with a shriek. Shards skitter across gravel like startled minnows. The blacksmith backs away, tasting rust on his breath that did not come from metal. 3 fishermen take up the task, shoulders wide from hauling nets and storms. They lash a rope around a jut of angel wing, hitch the other end to a cart horse. Whip cracks, hooves churn, rope strains. Wood groans, not in surrender, but warning. The weight of the beast presses earth into furrows. The rope frays, smokes, then parts with a gunshot pop that flings men backward into dew-soaked grass. Horse eyes roll white. It refuses the bit, trembling at something it cannot name. Women approach with oil lamps, holding light against shadows, pooled in every carved feather. Lampglass fogs, flames gutter, refusing to burn bright near the door. A child steps forward, palm flat to the wood. She jolts as though winter leapt through skin, yanks her hand away to reveal a frost print of her own fingers, seared into grain. Her mother drags her back, eyes shining fear. The Abbey bell tower stares mute, its bronze tongue stolen years ago for the war that took their sons. Yet beneath the tower's hush, a sound seeps. Long, low, guttural. It quivers through mortar, rides dawn's breeze, ends on the chapel door like breath forced through teeth. An agonized wail, muffled but unbroken, pleading in no language taught above ground. Villagers freeze. Door remains still. Angels' eyes seem deeper, their carved pupils shifting ever so slightly toward the noise within. Father Aldwyn, shepherd of these souls, raises a silver aspergillum. He sprinkles holy water that steams on contact, droplets sizzled into nothing. Latin prayers leave his tongue, each word falling dull, flattened by an unseen weight. At Libera Nos, a hairline crack creeps across an angel's halo, leaking dark sap that smells of violets drowned in brine. The priest staggers back, lips blistered as if kissed by ice. Sun climbs higher. Its rays carve long shadows of angel wings onto the door, stretching talons of darkness that crawl across stone steps, reaching villagers' boots. Where the shadows pass, grass wilts, dew recoils, insects fall still. A woman drops her lamp, glass shatters, yet no flame spills out, only thin smoke that curls into letters before vanishing. Wait. Inside, the wail rises to a sob, then a rasp, someone chanting numbers backward in a child's voice. 8, 7, 6. Each count thuds through oak like a heartbeat too big for its cage. When the chant hits 4, the village carpenter, fists bleeding from pounding, sags to his knees, hearing a second voice answer from beneath flagstones at his feet. 3, 2, all fall silent, bracing for 0. But the count halts at 1. Wood fibers tighten, grain shifting into raised ridges that resemble barred windows. Rain threatens, though the sky remains dry. A single drop falls anyway, striking the door's center. It blooms outward in rings of salt water, leaving behind petals of violet etched into wood. An angel's wing tilts the smallest degree. No one breathes. The blacksmith retrieved. As a hammer swings with a roar of faith and fury. Metal meets oak and rebounds, head sheared clean off, landing 20 paces distant, molten edges cooling in morning air. The strike leaves no dent, only a new line of script scorched across the carvings. Sunrise cannot save you. A hush deeper than cemetery midnight settles. Birdsong quits the hedgerows. Surf holds its crash below the cliffs, as though the ocean itself pauses to listen. From the door seeps a second wail, higher, fragile, unmistakably a nun's prayer stuck between terror and hope. It trails into a cough, then repeats the single Latin plea, "Aperi nobis," open to us. Father Aldwin's eyes brim. He lays his palm against cold timber and whispers, "I cannot." The door thrums beneath his skin, steady, pulsing, alive. He feels another heartbeat answering his, but slower, older, counting centuries instead of seconds. Behind the villagers, the sun finally clears the abbey roof, flooding the courtyard with fearless light. But the door drinks it, reflecting none. Angels' wings now appear wet, droplets sliding off feathers carved from a tree, felled before any living soul was born. The priest steps back. The villagers retreat as one. No one dares turn away. All know doors can follow if you offer them your back. At the 11th hour, storm clouds mass from nowhere, cloaking day in tarnished pewter. First, thunder rolls like distant organ pipes. Raindrops hammer every slate, every head, except the door, which remains bone-dry, shedding water before it lands. Lightning forks, illuminates for an instant a figure behind the windowless wood. Tattered habit, hollow eyes, mouth forming forever the word, "Help." Then darkness. Thunder fades. Rain stops. Sun returns as if weather were slapped away by unseen palms. The door stands unchanged, yet the angel carvings now clutch broken swords. Villagers disperse, steps leaden, ears echoing that backward count frozen at 1. They know they'll dream of the missing 0. They know dawn will come again, and the door will still be waiting, unhinged from all mercy, hungry for the next attempt. What force grips this chapel door, and what awaits the hand brave or foolish enough to finish the count? Share your theory below, and subscribe so you don't miss the hour. The door finally moves. Fog thick as unspun wool hugs the abbey grounds, muffling dawn, stealing every color but iron gray. Grass bends beneath unseen weight, jeweled with pearl-sized droplets that quiver at the slightest breath. From the cloister gate, a line of footprints emerges. 8 pairs, crisp, deliberate side by side like beads on a rosary laid flat. The steps press deeper than dew alone could mark, each heel gouging soil as though burdened by more than flesh. No prints stray or stagger. They march in perfect pilgrimage toward the sea cliffs where earth ends and eternity begins. The path skirts the cemetery, passes the yew that once hid children's games, crosses the courtyard where candles guttered in yesterday's storm. Between prints lie odd interruptions, small circles like candle bases, as if the walkers paused to plant flame that left no ash. Mist curls around the depressions, unwilling to fill them, respecting a boundary written in silence. Closer to the precipice, the grass turns tufted, salt-burnt, slick with marine breath. Here the footprints deepen, toes scraping forward, bodies leaning into final momentum. Wind lifts veils of vapor, revealing that the 8th set of prints overlaps the 7th, as if one sister leaned upon another in weakness or devotion. At the cliff's edge, the impressions stop. No shuffle, no pivot, no heel mark hinting retreat. Only sheer absence, where shoes should have stamped farewell. 6 inches beyond the final P, rint, raw air yawns over jagged shale that waits 100 feet below, waves gnawing stone with ancient teeth. Between grass and nothingness lies a single object, a black glove, fingers spread, palm up, catching drizzle like an outstretched plea. The glove's cuff bears a stitched initial, A, thread faded to grey lavender. Salt beads on leather, rolling off before sinking in, as though the glove refuses baptism. Beside it, the earth shows clawing lines, 5 shallow scratches arcing toward the void, then ending where gravity claimed the narrative. Listen. Wind funnels through sea caves, shaping a low chant that mimics voices but never forms words. It climbs the cliff face, slips through empty habit sleeves imagined in fog, and brushes the glove, making fingers twitch. The chant swells, consonants lost, vowels stretched like gull cries, resolving into a single cadence. 8 beats, pause, 7, pause, 6, then hush. Seabirds hover above, wings beating time. They refuse to settle on the ridge, as if feathers know what feet learned. Their shadows flit across the footprints, briefly completing figures that should stand there, then breaking apart in startled flight. A faint perfume lingers, violets bruised in salt. It drifts inland, threading between abbey arches, echoing down crypt stairs. The fragrance matches the petals that sprouted from broken beads and wilted under candle soot nights ago. Now it returns richer, insisting on memory. A lone sister, survivor, latecomer, approaches the cliff, habit snapping in gusts. She kneels beside the glove, places her hand upon it. Leather clings to her palm, thirsting for warmth. When she lifts her hand, sand darkens her fingers, though no beach lies atop these cliffs. She whispers the missing names: Agnes, Evelyn, Claire, Magdalene, Cecily, Bridget, Ruth, Verena. With each name, the sea answers by thrusting a taller wave against sail. Hattered rock, spitting white foam high enough to lick her cheeks. She follows the prince backward, tracing absence toward the cloister gate. At every third step, her own footprint vanishes behind her, erased by mist as if refusing new testimony. Halfway back, she finds droplets of blood diluted by dew. Tiny ruby halos, leading not to the gate, but to the sealed chapel door, still oak, still mute. Blood dries into violet-black stains, shaped like crescents pierced by lines. Thunder mutters beyond the horizon, a reprimand delivered too late. Rain begins, soft at first, then harsher, drumming earth, slurring edges of the trail. Yet the 8 original prints endure, hollowing deeper as water scours around them, refusing to let time steal the witnesses they became. Inside the abbey corridors, candles reignite without touch. Their flames lean toward the sea, bowing to a liturgy no tongue dares recite. Shadows gather, wearing habits stitched from night, marching in reverse through vaulted halls, footsteps that imprint nothing, searching for bodies that once defined them. The sister reaches the cloister and stops before the boarded mirror. From behind planks seeps a glow, colorless yet consuming. Rain on roofstones sinks with distant chanting. Again, the 8-beat count, this time halting on 1 and hovering there like a held breath. She clutches the violet-stained beads at her waist. 1 bead splits with a soft crack, releasing a seed that glimmers, then dissolves into smoke spelling. Follow. Back at the cliff, the glove rises on a draft, fingers curling as if finding invisible reins. It floats over the void, hovering a heartbeat before descending in slow spiral toward roaring surf. Wind snatches its final shape, shredding leather into petals that scatter across water and vanish beneath waves. The footprints remain the only proof. Grass will heal, mist will clear, salt will bleach soil, but some truths imprint deeper than earth. They whisper no. Ow, urging every future footstep to question where ground ends and faith begins. When searchers come, they will mark this place with rope and caution, measuring distance, blaming wind, sea, despair. They will never smell bruised violets. They will never hear the chant that stops at one. They will catalogue a glove, note 8 sisters missing, close the record and leave. But the abbey will remember. Every dawn it will lay fresh dew, recasting 8 paths to the cliff until someone listens to the silence beyond the final step. What unseen call led the sisters past safety into open air, and where does that path continue after footprints fail? Share your thoughts below and subscribe so we can follow every fading trace together. Pews stand like rows of weathered ribs, stretching from the chapel doors to the marble altar. Sunrise bleeds through stained glass, painting bruised rainbows on empty benches, yet the air trembles with sound, a hymn no human throat sings. It begins softly, a low hum slipping between pillars, testing the silence left by vanished sisters. The tone widens, gathering threads of harmony that knot in vaulted beams. No organ pipes heave, no choir stalls creak, but music lives anyway, rising in slow, deliberate breaths. Listen. Voices layer, alto, tenor, innocence, grief. Words blur beyond Latin, syllables turning inside out, as if language fell from heaven half-translated. Still the melody soothes, the way ocean hushes broken shells. It invites knees to bend, hearts to loosen. Candles relight in pew sconces, flames bowing to invisible conductors. With each swell, wax tears slide, pooling in circles that mirror communion wafers. A breeze nobody feels rustles hymnals, flipping pages to the same number, 807, though the abbey owns no hymnal past 500. Near the transept, a spiderweb vibrates, each thread plucked by sound waves, weaving new geometry. Dust motes dance like censer smoke, drifting over pewbacks, haloing nothing. Shadows lean forward, shaped like habits filled with listening bone. Then, a single note breaks rank. It wavers, sharp with sorrow, pulling the chorus off pitch. Harmony quivers, tries to recover, fails. Mid-phrase, the entire hymn snaps into silence. Echoes slam against pillars, ricochet, collapse. Candles extinguish in one hush, leaving filaments of smoke that write fleeting runes before fading. Stained glass saints blink into dull color, mourning the light they briefly held. In that hush, a chair rocks. Second row, left aisle. Its legs tap stone twice, creak forward, settle back. No draft flows, no mouse scurries, yet the chair rocks again, slower, like someone grieving in rhythm. Step closer. Seat cushion bears a shallow imprint, the shape of folded knees pressing devotion into stuffing. On the woodrest, 8 salt crystals arranged in a crescent pierced by a line. Each crystal melts without heat, soaking into grain, darkening it to violet. A whisper curls through rafters, 3 words exhaled by no mouth. We still sing. Floorboards answer with a sigh that sounds almost like, "Join us." Somewhere above, ropeless bells twitch, knocking silence out of tune. The invisible choir resumes, but softer, as though singing behind heavy doors. Melody trails the shape of a lullaby, one beat short, every measure, eternally unfinished. After 9 bars, it cuts again. The chair rocks harder, forward, then back, scraping grooves that spark tiny blue sparks. Each spark hovers, becomes a note head, hangs mid-air before popping out like candlewick tears. A second chair joins the first, then a third. Soon a dozen rock in spectral cadence, an audience refusing stillness. Boards groan beneath them, though no weight sits. Lightning flashes beyond stained glass, yet no storm lies outside. In the flicker, pew shadows rise, detach, glide toward the altar with measured steps. They kneel, hands clasped, heads bowed. From their folded wrists, drip, violet drop. Lets that vanish before touching stone. Wind gusts from the narthex, though doors remain shut. It carries sea salt and distant counting. 3, 2, 1. Music surges louder than before, urgent, pleading for a chord it cannot find. At the altar rail a chalice appears, silver-cracked, brim full of water that swirls counterclockwise. In its depths float 8 rosary beads, each fissured like tiny skulls. The hymn reaches for climax. The water answers, spinning faster, beads clacking porcelain whispers. Without warning, the high window of St. Cecilia, patron of music, fractures down the center. Glass shards hang suspended, vibrating to the unsung note. They reshape into winged quavers, fly in orbit above the rocking chairs, sprinkle dust that tastes of iron and incense. Silence slams down a third time, heavier, decisive. The chalice water stills. Beads sink, shards fall, burying themselves point first in pew wood, spelling one word across the aisle: hush. Every chair stops. One by one, candles reignite, an offering of timid light. Music does not return. Yet from the vestry corridor, a shoe scuffs stone. Another, footfall rhythm matches the earlier hymn, tempo slow, unwavering. A shadow enters the nave, tall, veiled, habit torn, face hidden by gloom. It walks the center aisle, trailing brine. Where it passes, floorboards stain black, then bleed violet petals. It reaches the rocking chair row, rests a hand on the first seat. Wood groans, grateful. The shadow lifts its head. No face, only mirror glass cracked in starburst pattern, reflecting pews where living souls once sang. The mirror mouth parts. A faint hum escapes, the missing final note, hanging a heartbeat, promising completion. But the note fractures, shatters into static. The shadow bows, steps backward, fades into the corridor, footprints evaporating behind it. Chairs settle. Hymn books snap shut in unison, though none were open. Above the altar, the broken St. Cecilia pane fuses, wound knitting with soundless glass. Colors brighten as if washed anew. In the hush that follows, you can still taste music on the air, salt, dust, forgotten lullabies. Somewhere a chair creaks once, an afterthought, then subsides. The choir of silent hymns has ended its vigil, for now. What unfinished note keeps these unseen voices bound to stone, and who will dare sing the final measure to set them free? Share your theory below and subscribe so we face the last crescendo together. Dust floats in the main hall like faded confetti, catching sunset's last light before darkness inherits the air. Along the north wall hang 8 oil portraits, frames black as drowned wood, canvases taller than a grown man. Silk veils, thin as a nun's wimple, drape each painted face, stitched at the crown, freely falling to the gilt edge. Candles tremble on iron sconces, their flames stooped under an unseen yoke. Wax drips in slow pulses, forming waxen beads that collect on stone like tiny skulls. The hall's hush carries the faint rasp of brushstrokes too recent, as if the artist still works beneath every layer. Footsteps echo once, then fold into carpet. No wind enters these sealed corridors, yet the second veil twitches, flutters, lifts an inch. Through the slit peers a pair of blank eyes, irises left unfinished, pupils raw canvas. They catch the candlelight, reflecting nothing. It is the gaze of someone who never learned to look away. Shadow thickens behind the canvas, swelling until you swear the painted collarbones rise and fall. Your pulse quickens, but the hall stays mute, waiting to see which moves first, you or the art. The third veil stirs next. It slides sideways, revealing skin rendered so smooth it seems to breathe. Cheeks glow with pigment the color of fading violets. Lips part just enough to hint the start of a name, yet where voice should dwell, only darkness pools, deep as a well that drank secrets for centuries. Smoke rolls from candlewick to ceiling, sketching slow spirals. In the curls appear shapes, 8 tiny habits walking a line, each smaller than the next, marching toward a cliff of stone wall. The smoke figures step over a frame, vanish, then redraw themselves above the next portrait, repeating the march. At the 7th canvas, veil clings tight, but the paint beneath puckers. Brushstrokes twist, shoulders turn, one hand lifts inside the picture, fingers brushing veil from within. Nails scrape silk, slicing a frayed tear that widens with each stroke. The hall smells suddenly of linseed oil and sea brine, the scent of fresh paint mixed with drowning. A candle gutters out. Darkness pools forward, pausing at the hem of the 8th veil as though asking permission. Silk tenses, then falls away entirely, piling at the base like shed skin. The canvas underneath is blank, pure white, except for one word etched in wet varnish. Remember. Cold drizzles down the spine of every frame. Tiny beads race to the floor, forming a crescent pierced by a single line, glowing violet before fading. The first veil, untouched until now, slips free. Its portrait shows a sister with eyes closed, lips sealed by a single stitch of thread. Thread quivers, slowly unravels into the hall's stale breeze. Her eyes snap open, blank, yet somehow furious, and the hall's candles snuff in unison, smoke billowing like opened wings. In the dark, paint cracks. You can hear it, ripping through silence like distant ice breaking. The portraits sigh in 8 voices, exhaling a hymn devoid of melody. With every breath, silk rides the air, curtaining you in a maze of pale ghosts. Touch one, and it clings, damp, smelling of midnight violets. A distant bell tolls from nowhere inside the abbey, striking once. All veils freeze mid-flutter, eyes close, brushstrokes settle into polite stillness. Candles reignite, yet their flames burn lower, crouched. Hid like hunted animals. Only the blank 8th canvas remains unveiled, word gleaming faintly. Paint seeps from its lower edge, dripping to the floor in slow, deliberate dots that form a path toward the sealed chapel door. Each drop hisses on stone, leaving tiny burns that spell yet another message. We watch. The hall exhales, returning to its quiet pose, but every veil now hangs a fraction shorter, exposing just enough lip, just enough gaze, to promise movement when no one stands guard. What story do you read in the silent motion of these veiled faces, and which canvas would you dare uncover first? Answer below, and subscribe so you don't look away the moment the portraits decide to blink. Iron moans when the cellar door swings, as if the hinge remembers every secret it swallowed. Lantern light spills in a narrow cone, licking rust that freckles the frame like dried blood. Beyond the threshold, stone steps dive into breathless dark. Each tread glistens with damp, reflecting gold shards that flicker and die. Step 1. Cold thickens, gripping ankles. Water drips somewhere below, each splash echoing like a slow heartbeat, echoing too loud in a coffin. Spider silk strokes your cheek, trembling from vibrations only it can feel. Step 5. The lantern flame steadies, almost reverent. Walls narrow, stones sweating salt tears. A smell crawls up, violets rotted in seawater, familiar, unwelcome. Step 11. The last echo of living daylight falls silent. Ahead, a low arch rises, carved with 8 tally marks gouged by a desperate hand. The lantern quivers, but does not fail. You cross beneath the stone threshold. The chamber yawns wide, gut of the abbey, older than prayer. Floor slick with centuries of seepage, ceiling lost in black. Along the circular wall, 8 alcoves gape like missing teeth. Alcove 1. Bare bedrock, claw marks scoring the back wall, stone shavings scattered like bone chips. At the center lies a scrap of black veil, edges frayed, smelling of cold sweat. Alcove 2. Candle stub fused to floor, wick burned down to nothing. Beside it, a loose rosary bead split open, hollow, empty. Alcove 3, tiny handprint in dust, too small for any sister, pressed so deep it must have belonged to someone starving for proof they existed. Alcove 4, water pools ankle deep, yet ripples outward from no source. Surface shivers with each breath you take, reflecting lantern light in broken halos. Alcove 5, iron shackles hang, hinges rusted but recently disturbed. One cuff swings lazily, knocking the wall in a slow, accusing rhythm. Alcove 6. Nothing but a violet bloom sprouting through a mortar crack, petals bruised, dripping brine. Its stem curls toward you as if longing to wrap your wrist. Alcove 7. Veil scrap again, this one crusted with salt crystals shaped like tiny crescent moons. They crumble at the lantern's sigh. Alcove 8, darkest, deepest, breathes a chill wind from holes drilled into solid stone. From within comes soft scratching. 3 strokes. Pause. 3 more. Pause. Then a ragged whisper, too faint to pass, too close to ignore. You lift the lantern. Light pushes only a step inside before dying on invisible glass. Something shifts away, dragging nails that shriek across rock until silence seals the wound. Drip. Drip. Footsteps behind you. When you turn, alcoves 1 through 7, now each house a standing figure made of pooling shadow, heads bowed, hands clasped. They sway as if humming the silent hymn left unfinished in the chapel above. The lantern gasps, flame bending toward alcove 8, begging to witness. Floor trembles. Tiny vibration, like a heartbeat deep under earth, answering the scratch. A breath rises from the dark, wet with salt and old prayers. 1. The other shadows fade, slinking back into stone. Only 2. Veil scraps remain, fluttering with wind that no longer blows. Lantern dims but steadies, its light ringed by new tally marks scratched round your feet. 7 fresh cuts. When did they appear? Overhead, the bell that lost its clapper thuds once, hollow and heavy. Dust rains from rafters far above your reach, whispering across the cellar like falling ash. The scratching stops. So does your breath. Then another whisper slips through alcove 8. 2 words colder than any sea. Dig deeper. What claws behind that final wall, and how many breaths will the lantern have left when you find it? Share your answer below, and subscribe before the last tally is carved with your name. The abbey gate looms skeletal in twilight, iron ribs black against a sky bruised purple. From the hush above flutters a single raven, wings beating slow, deliberate, as if weighed by tidings too heavy for daylight. It settles on the crossbar, claws screeching across rust, and folds its feathers with funeral care. Between its talons hangs a strip of parchment, ragged as drowned lace. A fresh crimson stain seeps from the center, dripping once, twice, onto moss that never learned to bloom. No wind moves, yet the paper flutters like a pulse. The bird tilts its head, one coal eye reflecting the empty yard, the other catching candlelight leaking from fractured windows. Its beak opens, releases a single caw that shreds the silence. The sound ricochets through cloisters, waking dust, stirring shadows that still remember human shape. You step forward. Gravel crunches loud, daring reply. The raven does not flee. It waits, verdict in claw, feathers ruffling with restrained impatience. Closer now, you smell copper, violets, and old sea on the parchment. Blood beads along the torn edge, still wet, spelling urgency. Fingers tremble as you ease the message free. Talons resist, tightening just enough to draw another ruby tear from the page, then release. Under dying light, ink slashes 3 words. Clean, final, irrefutable. They never left. Heartbeats hammer ears. Behind you, chapel doors groan the burr, or no hand touches them. Candles along the nave reignite, flames leaning toward the gate, as if greeting a long-expected guest. Inside those flames, tiny silhouettes dance, 8 small figures, arms raised in mute procession. The raven watches, head bobbing, measuring your fear like a merchant weighs coin. Blood on the parchment spreads, mapping the abbey grounds in miniature. Spots mark the sealed chapel, the locked cellar, the cliff where footprints ended. Each blot pulses once as if remembering footsteps, then stills. A second bird answers from somewhere inside the fog, one caw, distant, echoing. The raven's wings flick open, air shivers. It launches upward, parchment snap echo lingering on the gate. Feathers vanish into mist, but a single quill drifts down, landing upright in the blood-damp moss. Quill tip points toward the abbey door. Ink bleeds from its hollow shaft, writing along the stone path as it rolls, count backward. Letters steam, swallowing themselves before the last stroke dries. Bells without clappers toll faintly beneath ground. From the cliffside, wind carries half a hymn, ending on a note too broken to resolve. The parchment crumples in your fist, yet the words flare brighter, refusing to die. Lanterns along the corridor ignite one by one, guiding a route only night can read. At each flame, violet petals appear, crisping into ash that drifts skyward like reverse snow. Some settle on your shoulders, warm despite the cold. Shadow gathers under the archway. It stretches till it wears the outline of a habit, face hidden by a veil that flutters, though air remains still. The figure raises an unseen finger to unseen lips, warning silence. Behind the veil, 2 blank eyes shine white, reflecting a raven mid-flight. The unseen choir exhales a single syllable. 1. Your pulse answers. 0. All lights snuff. In total dark, the parchment bursts into flame, illuminating enough to show 8 silhouettes closing in, arms extended not for harm, but for welcome. The fire goes out. Fog inhales what light remains, and footsteps surround you, soft, salt-damp, unstoppable. Which truth hides inside the words they never left? And would you dare follow the raven to find out? Tap subscribe so we can read the next message inked in midnight together before the light fades. Dawn slides through mullioned glass, gentle as prayer, merciless as judgment. Sunbeams tiptoe across the dormitory, touching 8 iron cots arranged with military grace. Each bed is perfectly made. Sheets pulled tight, pillows fluffed, wool blankets folded at the foot like obedient soldiers. Yet the mattresses lie cold, no dent, no lingering warmth, only the faint odor of salt and candle smoke. Beside every cot rests a simple wooden chair. On each chair sits a neatly folded robe, black wool steamed crisp, rosary draped on top as if laid out for inspection. Beads glint in the light, but the crucifixes feel strangely heavy, pulling fabric into tiny trenches. Breakfast trays wait on the nightstands, bearing hollow bowls and spoons set at 5 o'clock angles. Porridge once filled each bowl. Now only a damp ring clings to porcelain, as if the meal evaporated with its eater. A fly circles, skids on an invisible glaze of honey, then drops lifeless beside the spoon, wings too heavy for absence. At the hearth, the firebox holds last night's ash. Black flecks form a crescent pierced by one thin line. Grey dust still radiates warmth, pulsing like a heart that refuses to accept its own extinction. Corridor door stands ajar. You step through. Footfalls echo down stone hall, meeting no reply. Yet halfway to the chapel, a second set of steps joins yours, perfectly matched, as if walking shoulder to shoulder with someone made of breath. They halt when you halt. They wait. Then they fade, receding into mortar. Sunlight creeps farther, revealing chalk marks on the floor, 8 tally strokes scratched, then rubbed almost clean. Only the last stroke remains sharp, bleeding white dust across slate. You reach the refectory. Tables gleam, freshly wiped. 8 cups sit upright, rims kissing reflected daylight. Inside each cup, water trembles, disturbed by no wind, vibrating to an unheard chant. Infirmary next. Beds stripped, linens stacked, cabinets shut. Yet one drawer gapes. Within lies a cracked glass vial half filled with dark seawater. Tiny bubbles rise, pop, releasing violet fragrance. Chapel at last. Candles burn low, though none were lit after compline. Their flames lean toward the nave, pointing to 8 kneelers pushed even with the rail, silent placeholders for prayers that never learned finishing words. Organ keys depress on their own, one by one, breathing a note so faint you doubt your ears. The chord holds, wavers, then dies. Dust motes settle on ivory, sealing silence under translucent graves. Above, St. Cecilia's stained glass face smiles wider than yesterday. Tiny fracture lines around her eyes suggest laughter or sorrow, hard to tell in this light. You turn back down the hall. Sun now floods the dormitory, whitening sheets glaring off chair backs. Nothing moves, yet each robe's sleeve drifts a fraction, as though arms stretched beneath invisible skin. Through the window you glimpse the cliff path. Footprints appear in damp grass, fresh, pointed toward the sea, already fading under morning warmth. No doors creaked, no gates swung, but the earth records every silent departure until dew drinks the evidence. A bell thuds far below the cellar, one strike, enough to loosen mortar dust. Dawn should bring closure. Instead, it resets the mystery, wiping faces, leaving artifacts ready for the next witness. 8 beds, 8 robes, 8 spoons, 8 prayers, again, 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 as if time itself refuses to dismiss the sisters from their vigil. What dawn-born riddle keeps remaking this empty room, and which sign would you follow to break its loop? Tell me your theory in the comments, and subscribe to confront the next sunrise at Ravenshead together. Black. Silence. Then, the slow birth of numbers glowing white against endless night. Missing. 8. Found. Uo. A lone bell answers, voice cracked by centuries, tolling once. The note wanders the void, searching ears that might still listen. It fades, yet its ache lingers, vibrating in marrow where history nests. 8 women, 8 robes folded in devotion, 8 rosaries abandoned like spines removed. Their prayers float somewhere between cliff and crypt, turning to frost on your breath. Remember the footprints that halted at empty air. Remember the mirror that swallowed reflections whole. Remember the diary locked sevenfold and the cellar scratching through stone sins. Each clue circles back to that single tally. Found 0. Who writes this ledger? Whose ink stains parchment crimson? Drip by accusatory drip. Perhaps the abbey itself keeps score, carving absence into doorways, feeding dawn the taste of salt and violets. Or perhaps a darker hand tallies souls the way merchants count coin, precise, unemotional, inevitable. Some say the sisters walk the cliffs at night, garments stitched from sea fog, singing hymns time refuses to learn. Some swear they hear a child's laugh between organ pipes, halted at the last note, waiting for forgiveness that never arrives. Others claim the portraits bleed when moonlight wanes, each drop a memory traded for silence. But hear this: absence is not emptiness. It is a room kept ready, beds remade, candles trimmed, mirrors covered, doors sealed. Absence waits with patient hunger, savoring the echo of names unspoken: Agnes, Evelyn, Magdalene, Ruth, Claire, Cecilia, Bridget, Verena, syllables that melt before they leave the tongue. High 8. Why brides of shadow chosen in pairs, in trinities, in silence? Count backward, and you will hear the answer stall at 1, the final 0 withheld like a breath before confession. Listen closer. The bell should be silent now, its tongue stolen for war. Yet if you press an ear to the chapel door, you'll feel its heartbeat, thudding once for every sister unseen. Stone does not forget. It records each footstep in ridges of dust, each whispered vow in cracks that widen when no one watches. Somewhere beneath the waves, a well of violet light churns. Somewhere in the crypt, a candle burns black, devouring its own smoke. Somewhere atop the tower, a raven circles, clutching parchment inked with your name, because stories need witnesses and numbers demand new columns. The ledger glows once more. Missing 8. Found 0. 0 is not nothing. It is the mouth of beginning. Step inside, and you will hear them breathe. Step inside, and you might trade places. Step inside, and the tally may finally change. But in which direction? 8 women, 8 unanswered prayers. Where do the Blackwood sisters hide, and who keeps their souls? What fate do you believe balances on that unspoken 0, and which clue would you pursue first? Subscribe now so we can turn the next page of this ledger together before the bell tolls again.